Yep.
May I use the bathroom real quick?
Are you what?
May I use the bathroom?
Yes, go ahead. All right. So start off, I'll read Ulysses. Keep getting these in your minds. There lies the port. The vessel puffs her sail. There gloomed the dark, broad seas. My mariners toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine, and opposed free hearts, free foreheads. You and I are old. Old age has yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all, but something ere the end, some work of noble note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks. The long day wanes. The slow moon climbs. The deep moans round with many voices. My friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now that strength, days may moved earth and heaven, that which we are, equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Let me get back those tests, and then we'll pick up with book 16. These tests were, as I said, pretty good in general. Guys who are at home, I graded your tests right on the PDFs that you sent me, so you can see there. In general, there were not many points lost from sentence fragments, so I was glad of that. You guys were pretty good about writing complete sentences. It's always frustrating to see points lost there, but there weren't many of those, so thank you for that. Some of the questions I was a little surprised how few of you got right. Who's Orestes?
That's the dude that killed his dad?
Not his father. Who did he kill?
This
Whom did Orestes kill? Okay, Orestes. When Agamemnon returned home from Troy, his wife and her lover murdered him. Orestes later then, after fleeing his home, returns home and kills his mother and her lover in revenge for this. This is a recent event, the time the Odyssey opens. It's on everybody's minds. What will Odysseus' return home look like? If Penelope and the suitors do turn against him, will Telemachus avenge his father the way that Orestes avenged his? Okay, book 16, page 351. We just saw the suitors. They've realized that Telemachus has made it back to Ithaca, which they weren't expecting. They were expecting him to be lost on this voyage. By the way, next week, we'll have a test on books 9 to 12. Probably Wednesday or Thursday.
Are you going to make a practice test or something?
Yeah, I'll give you a practice test for that also. Books 9 to 12 test. So that's Odysseus' adventures. So that'll either be, well, I guess 1029 is the poems due. So let's say Thursday, 1028 will be that test. I'll give you a practice test. I'll try to do that before this week's over. So tomorrow or Friday, give you that practice test. Okay. Telemachus and Odysseus have met. They've made plans how to kill the suitors. The suitors have realized Telemachus is home. They want to kill him right away. But Amphinomus, this one suitor, has at least some respect for what's right, for the will of the gods. He says, let's consult the will of the gods first. And the suitors finish their meeting, which they hold in what's supposed to be the public meeting place for the people of Ithaca, where we saw Telemachus call them out back in book 2. Yep. They return there, and it's just them. All right, now shifting scenes back to Penelope. But now an inspiration took the discreet Penelope to face her suitors. Brutal, reckless men. The queen had heard it all, how they plotted inside the house to kill her son. The herald Medon told her. He had overheard their schemes. And so, flanked by her ladies, she descended to the hall, that luster of women. Once she reached her suitors, drawing her glistening veil across her cheeks, paused now, where a column propped the sturdy roof, and rounding on Antinous, cried out against him, "You, Antinous, violent, vicious, scheming, you, they say, are the best man your age in Ithaca, best for eloquence, counsel. You're nothing of the sort. Madman, why do you weave destruction for Telemachus? Show no pity to those who need it, those over whom almighty Zeus stands guard. It's wrong, unholy, yes, weaving death for those who deserve your mercy. Don't you know how your father fled here once? A fugitive, terrified of the people, up in arms against him, because he'd joined some Taphian pirates out to attack the Thesprotians, sworn allies of ours. The mobs were set to destroy him, rip his life out, devour his vast wealth to their heart's content. But Odysseus held them back. He kept their fury down. And this is the man whose house you waste, scot-free, whose wife you court, whose son you mean to kill. You make my life an agony. Stop, I tell you, stop all this, and make the rest stop too. But Polybus' son Eurymachus tried to calm her. Wise Penelope, daughter of Icarius, courage! Disabuse yourself of all these worries now. That man is not alive. He never will be. He never can be born who will lift a hand against Telemachus, your son. Not while I walk the land and I can see the light. I tell you this, so help me, it will all come true. In an instant, that man's blood will spurt around my spear, since time and again Odysseus dandled me on his knees. The great raider of cities fed me roasted meat and held the red wine to my lips. So to me, your son is the dearest man alive, and I urge the boy to have no fear of death, not from the suitors at least. What comes from the gods, there's no escaping that. Encouraging all the way, but all the while plotting the prince's murder in his mind. The queen, going up to her lofty well-lit room, fell to weeping for Odysseus, her beloved husband, till watchful Athena sealed her eyes with welcome sleep. Returning just at dusk to Odysseus and his son, the loyal swineherd found they'd killed a yearling pig, and standing over it now were busy cooking supper. But Athena had approached Laertes' son Odysseus, tapped him with her wand, and made him old again. She dressed him in filthy rags, too, for fear Eumaeus, recognizing his master face to face, might hurry back to shrewd Penelope, blurting out the news and never hide the secret in his heart. Telemachus was the first to greet the swineherd. "Welcome home, my friend. What's the talk in town? Are the swaggering suitors back from ambush yet, or still waiting to catch me coming home?" "You answered the prince, Eumaeus, loyal swineherd. I had no time to go roaming all through the town, digging around for that. My heart raced me on to get my message told and rush back here. But I met up with a fast runner there, sent by your crew, a herald, first to tell your mother all the news. And this I know. I saw with my own eyes I was just above the city heading home, clambering over Hermes Ridge, when I caught sight of a trim ship pulling into the harbor, loaded down with crowd aboard her, shields and two-edged spears. I think they're the men you're after. I'm not sure." At that, the young prince Telemachus smiled, glancing toward his father, avoiding Eumaeus' eyes. And now with the roasting done, the meal set out, they ate well, and no one's hunger lacked a proper share of supper. When they'd put aside desire for food and drink, they remembered bed and took the gift of sleep. Penelope, we see again confront the suitors. She wants to do something about the situation, but she's largely powerless. And here, on 351 and 352, she tries to appeal to Antinous, the leader of the suitors. And why does she say Antinous she's heard the news that the suitors were trying to kill Telemachus. Why does she say that Antinous in particular should not be hurting Telemachus? Why is Antinous in particular under some sort of obligation, we could say, not to hurt Telemachus?
Because his father living here.
His- Yes, his father had gone to steal from the Thesprotians, who were allies of the people of Ithaca. And he said the mobs were set to destroy him, rip his life out. But Odysseus held them back. Antinous' father, his life and his wealth were saved by Odysseus. But instead, Antinous here is turning against Odysseus' son. And he says, no, I would never harm Telemachus, he responds on 352. In fact, if anybody hurts him, I'll kill him. Very two-faced here. And we see Eumaeus returning to Telemachus and Odysseus, still not knowing who Odysseus actually is. They eat some pig, and they go to bed. All right. We're going to skip a bit now. In books 17 and 18, the first part of this plan gets put into action. Namely that Odysseus and Telemachus separately return to the palace. So book 17 and book 18. Telemachus returns home. And Odysseus goes to the palace in disguise as a beggar, as he's been disguised. And what had Odysseus told Telemachus in book 16? What had he told Telemachus to expect to happen? What did Odysseus tell Telemachus was going to happen when they get back to the palace with Odysseus disguised as a beggar? What do you tell him?
The suitors will they will like to fight with Odysseus because they want to know their power.
So they're not going to outright fight him yet.
No, not fight. Like bullying him.
Right, they're going to mock him. One of the things that they make him do, in fact, and Odysseus had told Telemachus, don't do anything. He says, they'll probably mock me, throw things at me, do all sorts of terrible things. Don't react yet until I give you the signal. And they do. They throw food at him. They don't treat him hospitably. Odysseus then is coming to his own house as a xenos, as a guest. The suitors there are obliged to let him enjoy Telemachus' hospitality. But instead of treating him well and honoring him as they should a guest, instead they mock him. They throw things at him. They don't give him good food. Telemachus is the only one who gives him any kind of nice treatment. The suitors at one point, Odysseus is at the gates, and instead of letting him in, they say, hey, you're a beggar. There's this other drunk beggar over here. Why don't the two of you fight? And they make Odysseus fight this guy. Of course, he wins. This is like their last chance to follow the rules of hospitality. They don't succeed at all. In book 19, Odysseus talks with his wife again, Penelope.
As the beggar or as the
As the beggar. As the beggar. Penelope, like Telemachus, wants to show Odysseus, this beggar, I should say, hospitality.
But Telemachus doesn't know that he's also that's Odysseus.
Telemachus knows, but he's under instructions not to do anything special, to treat him like he should have guessed, but not to prevent the suitors. Penelope, though, sees this beggar, this guest come, and she wants to show him hospitality also. And so she has him bathed, she gives him nice clothes, she feeds him, gives him a place to sleep. And they also talk together at length. And Odysseus takes this opportunity to ask her about her husband and about the situation with the suitors, gathering information. We know, and he knows, Penelope is pretty reliable, but he needs to be sure. Agamemnon has warned him, remember, in the underworld, don't trust Penelope. Not that she would ever do anything, but you can't trust her. As Odysseus is being taken care of, one of the things that happens is he's given a bath by Euryclea. You guys remember Euryclea? Maybe? Euryclea, this woman, this slave woman who had been Telemachus' nurse, like another mother to him, the only one that he told that he was going off on this journey, with instructions not to tell his mother. Euryclea, who's been around a long time, she's assigned to bathe Odysseus, and she recognizes him by a scar on his knee that he had gotten as a child in a hunting accident. And we know Telemachus, Odysseus has on his side. And now Euryclea figures out Odysseus' identity. Even though he's in this disguise, he still has this scar on his knee that she recognizes as him. And this time, she doesn't spill the beans to Penelope. She does keep her mouth shut. All right. In book 20,
Wait, what happened in book 19 with Penelope?
so in book 19, Penelope takes Odysseus and shows him hospitality. She feeds him. She gives him nice clothes. She has her slave woman Euryclea give him a bath. While Euryclea is bathing him, Euryclea recognizes him. There's a scar on his knee that he got as a child. She recognizes that. So she now knows that it's Odysseus, but Penelope doesn't. And Odysseus and Penelope spend a long time talking with each other. And Odysseus is trying to figure out, so tell me about your husband Odysseus. You know, all these guys are here trying to marry you. What's going on there? You know, just pretending that he doesn't know about the situation because he's new to Ithaca. But in reality, he's trying to figure out who's still loyal to him and make sure that Penelope is still faithful. In 20, the suitors continue to party, and while this is happening, there are a number of different signs from the gods that things are about to go badly for them. While the suitors party, gods send warning signs. If it wasn't already clear enough that they deserve what we know they're going to get, here it becomes even more explicit. They were already warned by Telemachus in book 2, and then by this sign from Zeus of the eagles. We've seen them consistently violating the laws of hospitality. This other beggar shows up. For the first visitor we see arriving in the Odyssey back in book 1 is Athena. Shows up in disguise, and the suitors don't even pay any attention to her. Telemachus takes her in. Now we have another beggar arrive. This time it's Odysseus. And they mock him. They throw things at him. They hit him. Then the gods directly send signs to them that bad things are going to happen, and they still ignore it. We're going to pick up again in book 21. Penelope, throughout book 20, has been listening to this go on. She feels like there's something in the air. And so she decides to issue a challenge to the suitors. whom she knows can never measure up to her husband. That's what we'll have here. Book 21, page 424. Odysseus strings his bow. She's going to issue a challenge to the suitors. We're going to see this challenge here in book 21. The time had come. The goddess Athena, with her blazing eyes, inspired Penelope, Icarius' daughter, wary, poised, to set the bow and the gleaming iron axes out before her suitors waiting in Odysseus' hall, to test their skill and bring their slaughter on. Up the steep stairs to her room she climbed, and grasped in a steady hand the curved key, fine bronze with ivory haft attached, and then with her chamber women made her way to a hidden storeroom, far in the palace depths, and there they lay, the royal master's treasures, bronze, gold, and a wealth of hard-wrought iron, and there it lay as well, his back-sprung bow with its quiver bristling arrows, shafts of pain. Gifts from the old days from a friend he'd met in Lacedaemon, Iphitus, Eurytus' gallant son. Once in Messene, the two struck up together, in sly Ortilochus' house, that time Odysseus went to collect a debt the whole realm owed him. For Messenian raiders had lifted flocks from Ithaca, 300 head in their oar-swept ships, the herdsmen too. So his father and island elders sent Odysseus off, a young boy on a mission, a distant embassy made to right the wrong. Iphitus went there hunting the stock that he had lost, a dozen mares still nursing their hardy, suckling mules. The same mares that would prove his certain death when he reached the son of Zeus, that iron-heart Heracles, the past master of monstrous works, who killed the man, a guest in his own house. Brutal. Not a care for the wrathful eyes of God or rites of hospitality he had spread before him. No, he dined him, then he murdered him, commandeered those hard-hoofed mares for the hero's own grange. Still on the trail of these when he met Odysseus, Iphitus gave him the bow his father, mighty Eurytus, used to wield as a young man. But when he died in his lofty house, he left it to his son. In turn, Odysseus gave his friend a sharp sword and a rugged spear to mark the start of friendship, treasured ties that bind. But before they got to know the warmth of each other's board, the son of Zeus had murdered Iphitus, Eurytus' magnificent son, who gave the prince the bow. That great weapon. King Odysseus never took it abroad with him when he sailed off to war in his long black ships. He kept it stored away in his stately house, guarding the memory of a cherished friend, and only took that bow on hunts at home. Now, the lustrous queen soon reached the hidden vault and stopped at the oaken doorsill. Work and expert sanded smooth and true to the line some years ago, planting the door jambs snugly, hanging shining doors. And once she loosed the thong from around its hook, inserted the key and aiming straight and true, shot back the bolts, and the rasping doors groaned as loud as a bull will bellow, champing grass at pasture. So as the key went home, those handsome double doors rang out now, and sprang wide before her. She stepped onto a plank where chests stood tall, brimming with clothing scented sweet with cedar. Reaching, tiptoe, lifting the bow down off its peg, still secure in the burnished case that held it, down she sank, laying the case across her knees, and dissolved in tears with a high, thin wail as she drew her husband's weapon from its sheath. Then, having wept and sobbed to her heart's content, off she went to the hall to meet her proud admirers, cradling her husband's back-sprung bow in her arms, its quiver bristling arrows, shafts of pain. Her women followed, bringing a chest that held the bronze and the iron axes, trophies won by the master. That radiant woman, once she reached her suitors, drawing her glistening veil across her cheeks, paused now where a column propped the sturdy roof, with one of her royal handmaids stationed either side, and delivered an ultimatum to her suitors. Listen to me, my overbearing friends, you who plague this palace night and day, drinking, eating us out of house and home, with the lord and master absent, gone so long. The only excuse that you can offer is your zest to win me as your bride. So, to arms, my gallants! Here is the prize at issue, right before you look. I set before you the great bow of King Odysseus now. The hand that can string this bow with greatest ease, that shoots an arrow clean through all 12 axes, he is the man I follow. Yes, forsaking this house where I was once a bride, this gracious house so filled with the best that life can offer, I shall always remember it, that I know, even in my dreams. What's the challenge that Penelope gives the suitors?
Should an arrow in the ball the axis, curved axis?
Right. So there's two parts to it. One, the second part is to shoot an arrow through the heads of these axes. So these axe heads, right? They're pieces of metal. There's a hole in the top where the shaft of the axe goes through. So it has to shoot an arrow through 12 of those. What's the first part of the challenge? Before you can do that, you have to do what? You guys have any experience with bows?
You have to use the bow of Odyssey.
They have to use his bow, but what do they have to do first in order to be able to use his bow? So bows work because the wood or whatever other material they're made out of is a bit springy. And they've got a string on them. And when you pull back on the string doesn't stretch or bend, but rather the wood does. It's like a big curved spring. So you pull back on it, and the wood bends, and it stores all that energy. And then when you release it, all the energy stored in that bent piece of wood is released. The wood springs back out and shoots the arrow forward. When you keep a bow in storage, though, you don't keep it like this, because already like this, that wood is being pulled already just a little bit by the string. And so if you keep it like that over time, it weakens. It loses its springiness. So when you store a bow, you take the string off, and the bow without the string is either straight, it's actually a straight piece of wood without the string off, or sometimes it's even bent in the other direction. And when you put the string on, then it turns into a shape like this. And Odysseus' bow here is back bent. It's a bow like this. And so the first part, before they can put the string, before they can shoot it, they have to put the string on. And stringing a bow is really annoying. If you've ever tried it, if you haven't, get an opportunity to do some time. So pulling a bow back, first of all, can be very difficult. Usually it takes, depending on what the bow is for, anywhere between 30 to 100 pounds of force to pull the string all the way back. When you're stringing the bow, you have to exert not quite that much force, but it's really awkward. The bow itself is pretty straightforward. You grab the bow part in one hand, the string in the other hand. You've got the arrow supported there too. And you're able to pull with your back muscles and pull the string back. When you're stringing the bow, though, there's only the bow itself to hold on to. So what you have to do is you have to put it between your legs, and then with it braced against your legs here, you take one arm, or even both arms, and you bend it using your torso muscles and your arms. And with the other hand, you take the string, which is already attached to the one end of the bow, and stick it on the other. So that's the two parts of the challenge. One, they have to string the bow. Then after they shoot it, after they string it, they have to shoot it through these 12 axe heads. And Homer gives us lots and lots of backstory about this bow. Odysseus had gotten it from this friend that he met one time when he was a young boy. This was from Odysseus' it sounds like it, first real adventure as a child here on 425, when he first became a man. His father and island elders sent Odysseus off, a young boy, on a mission. When Odysseus was Telemachus' age, he's sent off to this other island to get back some sheep that had been stolen. And he meets this other guy there who's had some horses stolen from him. They meet up, they work together, and they exchange gifts. The gift Odysseus gets is a bow from this man, which he, in turn, had gotten from his own father. They promise sometime will come and visit the other one, enjoy the hospitality of the other one's house, but it never happens because his son is, the man he got this bow from, Iphitus, was murdered by Heracles. It's so precious to him that he doesn't take it abroad. He only uses it for hunting on Ithaca, which is why it's still here. So we get Penelope going up to the treasure chamber, opening these doors, all these wonderful descriptions. And she gets this bow down, And she presents it to the suitors. Here's the challenge. Whoever can do this, that's the one I'll marry. All right, let's pause there. We'll get more of this tomorrow. Don't forget the assignment's coming up. I'll post the book 21 questions, and I'll get the hard copies to you guys tomorrow.